Hey friends, and welcome back to Stronger Every Day. So today I wanted to talk about how do I know when I'm struggling with depression. Like I think a lot of people think, well, you're sad and you start dressing in black and you have a bad attitude and you're irritable, and some of that is true. But for me, so how do I know? How does Chrissy know when I'm getting ready to start struggling? Typically, I've learned over 29 years that my body lets me know ahead of time that we're about to go down, right? It's letting me know that you've kept pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing and you refuse to rest. So either you can rest on your own or I will make you rest, right? So for me, I start feeling sick. Like I get a little achy. I get a headache. I start having aches, like kind of like when you have the flu. And you just have, your body's aching. You just have that kind of the body ache. Sometimes I'll have chills. Sometimes I will be irritable. Sometimes I'll start withdrawing. Like I can feel myself say, I don't want to do that today, or I don't want to go to that function today. I can't be around that many people. Sometimes headache is one of them, which I used to get migraines quite frequently, and thank you Jesus that has stopped, but different things. So I personally, this is not scientific, this is Chrissy's what I've experienced over the past 29 years is that my body tells me every day when I've met my limit, and especially if I'm having good days, I tend to push past that limit for days on end, especially if you're having a good season. Like you just want to get it done while you have the energy. So you'll notice a lot of times some of these videos I'm wearing the same shirt. Well, that's because I'm having a group of energy where I feel like I can get some videos done that I've been planning, but I just haven't had the strength and energy to do. So sometimes I do record more than one video on the same day. Sometimes, I mean, I have clothes, but I typically wash clothes usually 3 times a week. So a lot of times I'm just wearing something that it's fresh in the closet, so I grab whatever's fresh, right? So for me, those are some of the things that happen. I start to feel myself withdraw. I start getting a headache. I start getting aches. I feel achy and sick. I feel weak. My mind is frazzled. It's like brain fog, kind of. I feel like I can't comprehend anything. I don't want to make a decision, even something simple as what's for dinner. Like I don't want to hear that. I don't want to make a decision about it. My mind's it's overstimulated, and even simple things are a struggle. So someone had asked, you know, do you have physical symptoms? Yes. A lot of times, especially with my anxiety, I'll have chest pains, and it's been a chore, especially as you get older, trying to figure out, is that anxiety or is that a heart attack? You know, which of the two is it? And I also have health issues where my heart rate typically stays fairly low. It's in the 40s, 50s, and sometimes in the 60s most of the time. And a lot of times it will drop and then my blood pressure will go sky high, or vice versa. So my blood pressure drops and my heart rate goes sky high. And I've been to doctor after doctor, ER after ER, and it's just a symptom that it's just something that I have learned to live with. So when I start feeling lightheaded, I sit down. If I try to stay hydrated, I try to drink a lot of water, or a lot of, if I'm working outside, we drink, it's called LiquidIV. That's actually what I have beside me. It's just water, and it's a powder that you put in there, and it kind of replenishes. We discovered it a couple of years ago on a camping trip. And so if we're outside working all day, then we'll usually come in and mix a LiquidIV. I'll post a link in the description below, but it's just, there's different flavored powders, and it even says on the package, so don't think it's gonna be, oh, yummy, which I actually like the taste of it, but it says it's for performance, not taste, or something along those lines. It lets you know ahead of time, like, this isn't like That's wonderful. I like the taste of it. It's an acquired taste though. It took me probably 2 to 3 weeks. This one I think is watermelon. I think is the watermelon. I'll double check when I post the link. But so yeah, so there's a lot of symptoms, and the chest pain one's very concerning. My immune system up until the past probably year-ish has typically been very weak. And I look at somebody that's sick and I'm sick, but it's been steadily getting stronger. So that helps me know that this isn't the flu. You're not getting a cold. You're having some depression and anxiety symptoms because you're not listening to your body. What I try to do at that point, when I realize that my body needs a break, is I try to take a break. Is that easier said than done sometimes? Yes, because life, right? We have demands on every aspect of our life. We have family, we have friends, we have kids, we have jobs, we have chores, we have households, we have bills, groceries, all of the things. And so sometimes it's a little easier said than done. So maybe for you, maybe it looks like going to bed 15 minutes earlier or sleeping 15 minutes later. Maybe it means packing your lunch and the kids' lunches the night before so that you can sleep in an extra 15-20 minutes and get a little bit extra rest for yourself. I was just talking to my husband the other day about all the things that I feel like kind of demand. I feel like if you open a book, or if you open a social media app, or if you open a magazine, that it tells you as a woman, right, you need to be happy and cheerful. You need to dress cute no matter what you're doing, right? If you're cleaning the house, gardening, if you're going to work, your makeup should be pretty, your hair should be done, your nails should be done, your toes should be done, everything should be shaved, you know, teeth perfect, happy, cheerful, intelligent. On top of that, you need to have 3 home-cooked meals a day for your family, right? Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Snacks are great too, only if they're healthy. Everything should be organic. You need to work out an hour, 45 minutes to an hour, 3 to 5 times a week. You need to plant your own food. You need to can your own food. You need to do, again, all organic. You need to have a perfect lawn. You should have a perfect savings account, a perfect this, a perfect that. Meanwhile, get 8 hours sleep and always be presentable and be presented, volunteer. Where are you supposed to find the time to do all of this? And I told my husband, I'm like, we are gonna have to sit down and say, where do our priorities line up and what is important to us? For me, first and foremost, I can't function without spending time with God. So it really doesn't matter if I have a whole plethora of things that I want to do. It's going to go badly if I don't spend quality time with God. So that's first and foremost on my list. My family is second. I have been blessed to be able to be home with Taz and Roscoe and Gordy, and then all of our babies now. And if they need something, I'm there. If one of my family members needs someone to go to the doctor with them, or go to the hospital with them, or stay overnight at the hospital, or transport them to and from, I'm available. I can do that. It's a amazing luxury that I know a lot of people don't have, and I cherish every second of that. I like being a caretaker to my family and friends. I like being able to help people when they need somebody with them. I enjoy that. It's a whole, I mean, I'm gonna get off topic if we keep going. So, which I already kind of did a little bit. So my point being is how I know when things are happening is I feel it. And it's not something that I knew, honestly, the first probably 10 years of having depression and anxiety, having that disease. I didn't pick up on that. I always thought, well, here I go, I'm sick again. And a lot of the time a lot of the time I would have to go to the doctor and get on antibiotic, or get on steroid, or get on antivirus, or antibacterial, whatever, A lot of the time I was sick, but sometimes I wasn't. I can't tell you how many trips I thought, you know, with my heart rate would be over 200, and then my blood pressure would be bottomed out, or vice versa. You know, my heart rate would be in the 30s and my blood pressure would be skyrocketed. So trying to figure that out, and just different things. It's not something that, you know, well, I've had depression 6 months, I should know all this. I didn't. That's not been my experience. It might be yours. It's not been mine. Up until the past probably 3 years, I started realizing some of the symptoms that were happening. It really, when I quit looking at the depression and anxiety and started looking at what's going on to cause it, right? And that slowly started about 3 years ago, and then really hit in about a year ago of the food, the study time, the what you're consuming, the no alcohol. And I'm not saying that this is what you need to do. I'm saying this is what has helped me, Chrissy, to maintain the longest stretch I've had in my lifetime, which is coming up on about 10 months, I guess. 9 to 10 months of, I've not had perfect days. Don't misunderstand. There's been bad days. There's been consecutive bad days, but not that dip where you're in the depths of depression and you're struggling to get out of bed. There are days where I have learned to give myself grace, but for me, that's some of the things that I realize when I start getting headaches, when I feel a little achy, when my chest is hurting, when I feel myself kind of pull and withdraw from social activities, whatever that might look like, when things that I typically enjoy, I don't enjoy anymore. Those are all signs for me to know that stop what you're doing, because your body's tired and you need to give your body rest so that you don't fall in that depth. And understand this, I might. I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to speak that forth that that's going to happen. If it happens, here's the thing. God's right there with me. He's with me now. He's going to be with me then. Whether it's up here, middle, or at the bottom. He's always going to be with me. And it's okay. Don't feel like, I think we think, okay, whoo, I made it out of that session. If you're newer in the depression and anxiety realm, I think you feel like, okay, I made it out of that. Now I'm fine. Hopefully you are. But if you have another episode, it doesn't mean you're a failure, or that you failed, or that something's wrong, or that you're a bad person, or you're not strong. I've said this before, people with mental illness are some of the strongest people I know, because we actively fight every day to keep moving forward. So it's a process. It's learning you. It's learning your body. It's great to read and listen and talk with other people who are going through what you're going through, because maybe they've experienced some symptoms that you've experienced, but you didn't realize it was associated with your mental health disease. Maybe you're sharing something with them that they didn't realize. That's what this channel is about. It's about us learning the disease and learning what affects people in some way. I know that it was incredibly eye-opening to me when I was talking to my PCP, and she said, I just flat out asked, you know, for this whole time, this whole journey, the doctors have said, well, let's try this pill, let's try this pill, let's try this pill, let's try this pill. 20, I'd say 7 years, 28 years into it, I've asked, she's fairly newer PCP to me. I've probably been going, I don't know, 4 years maybe. And I said, let me just ask you a question. I said, what the pills, like the medicines for this disease, what does that actually do? How much does that actually help with what I'm going through? And she said, to be real bluntly honest, about 30%. So that's 70%. Right, of a disease that these medicines aren't even treating. Now, it might be a little different for you. She was talking specifically about me, but you know, maybe yours helps 50% or 40% or 20%, but that's a large percentage that it's not doing anything. That's where all of these things that we try to do come in to help, right? If I recognize these signs faster in the process, then I can recover quicker or make the symptoms a lot less, right? Make, instead of having a bad couple days, instead of having a bad month or a bad couple weeks, maybe it's a bad 2 to 3 days, or maybe it's a bad 24 hours, or maybe it's a bad half a day. It's learning that for me, changing my diet, spending time with God, doing something physical. And for me, still to this day, I have not got into an exercise routine. Now, I don't just sit at home eating bonbons and watching television all day. We have currently in our home, we have 8. We have 7 dogs and a cat inside. We have 2 cats outside. We have 5 goats, and we're about to get 15 chickens. And we have strays that come and go. You know, I'm not going to turn my back on a hungry animal. So if I can catch them, I'll get them fixed and go that route. But we have things to do. This house there's not little fairies that fly around and mop the floors and clean the toilets and cook the food and go to the grocery store and pay the bills and move the goats and cut the grass and build chicken coops and goat fencing. And there's not little fairies that fly around and do that. I do that. My husband helps, obviously, with the chicken coop and the goat house. As I've said before, volunteer for an agency. We have things that we're actively doing. So it's for me, I haven't found a fit to fit in physical, like HIIT training or cardio or muscle lifting weights or whatever. I haven't found a place for that yet in my life, but I'll be out in the garden for 2 hours and come in drenched sweat from de-weeding that garden and working on it. Or I'll be out cutting the grass, and we don't have a small lot, right? It takes about 2 hours to cut our yard. And then there's always something else to do. Clean the goat water, we have a little kiddie pool in the backyard for Hannah, one of our little dogs. She likes to get in there in the hotter months and she'll cool off when she's outside. I have to clean that. The goat water in the front, when I move them from pasture to pasture, has to be cleaned. The cat water outside has to be cleaned. There's a ton of things. So it's not that I'm just like sitting around not working out, right? But I do have that want to get more physical activity into our schedule. It's just priorities. Like, where do you lay your priorities at? Like, what is important when you seem to have so many things that need your attention? And so prioritizing, and like I said, things have changed just this past week with losing Gordy, and time that has changed, right? So it's always changing, it's always different. So just kind of learn yourself. I mean, you might have symptoms that I don't have. We might have similar symptoms, or we might have nothing that's similar. It's just kind of learning your body and learning. Maybe write it down in a journal, or even on your notes in your phone. When, okay, today I started with a headache, I'm having a lot of brain fog, I'm feeling a little irritable, and then keep track of that, right? And see if that pans out. Now, I'm just going to tell you now, because I don't want someone to take this the wrong way. If you're having chest pains, probably go to the hospital just to get checked out, right? To make sure. It's better safe than sorry. For me, I know now that is anxiety for me. I am also very aware of the signs and symptoms of heart attack in women. So if I were to see those creep up, then yes, I would go. But I also know that anxiety can cause chest pain. And so, like I said, if you're having chest pain, I would render on the side of caution and say go get checked out. But for me, I feel like 95% of the time I know the difference. I could die of a heart attack tomorrow, but I feel like I know 95% of the time the difference, that it's anxiety. I'm anxious about something, and usually you can stop and think, well, here's what I'm anxious about, so here's why I'm having these kind of reactions. So it's always good, you know, do a Google search or a YouTube search or whatever, and kind of see like what other people have written or talked about or make videos about different things that they feel and how they react, how their body reacts. Maybe that will help you understand. I'm already getting hoarse from the hay. Help you understand. Anything that helps you understand your disease is a good thing. Now you can't compare, right, your symptoms to other people's. They may have way better symptoms, if there's such a thing, or you know, symptoms that are way worse than yours. And we're all, it's fine. Whatever your symptoms are, whatever your symptoms might be, that's absolutely fine. Just learn yourself and learn. Like I said, this isn't something, this took 28 years for me to pick up on. And actually, Nick was picking up on it sooner than I was. And he would say after the fact, I could tell you were going through a hard time. Because again, that's very touchy when you see someone struggling with depression. How do you phrase that? Are you okay? Because 90% of the time I'm going to say I'm fine. I've really had to be just gut-wrenchingly vulnerable with my husband when I'm having a bad day, and I don't love that. I don't. If he asked me, 90% of the time in the past, I would lie and say I'm fine. And clearly I wasn't. Not emotionally, physically, spiritually, any of it, right? I don't like people knowing how bad I feel as often as I feel it. But keeping that inside isn't good either. And so maybe if you're struggling with that, maybe that's where a counselor or a psychiatrist or a psychologist would come into play, where you have someone you can talk to about what you're feeling without feeling like you're laying your burdens on someone that you love. Now, I struggle with that at times with talking to Nick about it. Nick is very happy, always just happy-go-lucky, go with the flow, rarely gets upset at anything, life of the party. And I sometimes struggle feeling like I don't want to bring him down. I definitely don't want him to experience what I experience. And so, but what I've learned is that if I keep that internal and I don't let it out at all, then I'm hurting myself. And as much as I typically do not believe this, if I keep letting it go and I make a decision down the road to make a permanent decision about my presence here, that's gonna hurt him way more than him saying, how are you today? And me saying I'm struggling. And I'll be blatantly honest with you, it's hard for me to convince myself to believe that. Even today, it's hard for me to convince myself. I think sometimes still, would his life have been easier had we never met? Had we never gotten married? Would he, you know, be happier? Would my family be happier if they didn't have to deal with this? Would my friends be happier? And I think anyone that you ask in your life, would you be happier if I was not here? That's half a human is going to say, I'll do anything I can to keep you here, right? Unfortunately, there are those people that don't think about what they're saying, and they have no common sense or knowledge about things that they've said to people. There's been people that have said, I wish you were dead, and that person went and committed suicide. Most people with half a brain that are half human and half a heart would never say that, because it's not true. But we tend to think that it is. And it's just learning yourself, learning your limits, learning, and everybody has limits. Not everybody's Superman and Superwoman. They just aren't. Everybody has limits. You know, we love to talk about how great it is to, you know, work 16 and 20-hour days, 7 days a week, and in that 3-hour window, you work out for an hour, and you pray for an hour, and you sleep for an hour, and that's all you need, and you keep going. If that's you, great. But being someone who used to work 16 hours a day, you are so exhausted that there's no way you're giving your everything to spending time with God, to your workout, to eating right, to sleep, getting any kind of quality sleep. Your body, that's going to take a toll on your body. Now, you may be able to keep it up for 6 months, a year, 6 years, however long, but it's going to take a toll. And I guarantee you, when you're laying there on your deathbed, you're not going to say, man, if I'd have worked 2 more hours, things would be so much better. You're going to wish you had time back with family and friends. So as a society, we really push that, and there has to be a balance. Like, you don't need to just not do anything, right, and live off society. But let me preface that with, if you have a disability, you're not living off society. You have a disability, whether that be mental or physical. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about able-bodied people that can work, that just don't want to work because it's not something they want to do, right? Don't ever mix the two up. There are people that need help. There are people that need assistance. There are people that can't physically or mentally hold a job, and that's not what I'm talking about. That's why we have systems in place to help people that are struggling with those things. And by far, you're not a leech. We're glad that you're here. We're happy you're here, and just keep being you. I'm talking about people that are able-bodied, that sit at home and do nothing all day. Don't misunderstand where I'm coming from there. We have to figure out, this is what helps me. This is when I recognize what's going on, and here's my symptoms, and I need to start working things out for the better. Is it easy? I mean, 100% honesty, no. And if you're in the full-blown depths of depression, it's almost daggum impossible to start improving when you're at that spot. So when you start coming back up is when your mind gets a little clearer, things get a little less, this is never going to happen, never going to work, and you start feeling a little bit better about things. Then you can put these things into practice. I know if you're in the depths of depression and you watch any of my videos, I don't ever want you to think this is stupid or this doesn't apply, she has no idea. I've been right where you are. And you are correct. When you're in that spot, when you're in that place, whether it's for a day or a week or a month or a year, however long that is, none of this sounds possible. None of it does. It is once you start coming back up. And that's, coming back up is just minute by minute. It's just minute by minute. It's the small little things that you can do. And I've said this before, that what I do every day now, and I'm kind of on a little bit of an even keel, is I get up and I brush my teeth every day. I put lotion on my face every day, and I put chapstick on, and I put my hair in whatever this is every day. And that's my little tiny bit of self-care, and I seem to feel better. What I've started adding recently is I get out of my pajamas. There's days I'll be out letting the goats out, you know, moving them from field to field, or I'll be in the garden in my pajamas. Like, there's days that that's just gonna have to be acceptable. But what I've started to try to do is to take those pajamas off and put work clothes on to actually get out and do that kind of thing. It's just little things day by day. When you're in that spot, it's, you're struggling to stay alive, right? So if you don't brush your teeth, do you really care? No. It's a scary, dark place, and it is a very heavy, alone, negative, hateful place to be in when you're in the depths of depression and anxiety. And those are the friendliest words I can come up with, because it's so much more than that. But you can always come back up. How many times have I been in that situation in 29 years? Several hundred, maybe 1,000. A lot of times where I didn't want to wake up in the morning. A lot of times I went to bed praying I did not want to wake up in the morning. Lord, bring me home. I cannot tell you how many times I've prayed that. So this channel, it depends on where your journey is, right? What part of this is going to work. It's not, I can't sit, I could, but it would probably be a year-long video to sit and tell you from point A to point B to point C down to point Z, all the ebbs and flows of depression and anxiety. You're not going to get it in a 20-minute video, and that's hard, because I want you to see how good you are and how important you are. And I want you to see that people like me, like us, understand you. We hear you, we see you, we've been where you are, and there is hope there. There is hope in the very deepest, darkest place. There's hope there. If you're watching this video and you're in that place, you're probably not going to see that, but I promise you it's there. So we're going to end the video here, friends, and I end every video this way. My prayer, my hope is that you feel and see this every time. God loves you. I love you. Your family loves you. Your friends love you. And we need you here. We'll see you in the next one, friends. Bye.